Our journey began when Roger Goodell and the owners group decided they were done with Dan Snyder's shenanigans, kicking him out of the league, forcing the sell of the team, and putting a lot of stipulations on what the Washington Commanders could do, essentially putting in the replacement clause. Jimmy McGinty, the legendary head coach and former replacement head coach, took over as owner and instated Shane Falco as head coach. Though it was going to be difficult with 65 overall players and under for the first season, and that season did not go extremely well. The team ended up finishing with a 6-11 record, bottom of the NFC East. But in the second season, after we were able to bring in a little bit more talent and a few players really started to stake claim, we did have a much better season. Not a winning season, 8-9, but we were just above the Giants, so third placed in the NFC East. But it all changed after that season when in the draft, we were able to trade up and select our generational quarterback in James Cody. Cody and the Commanders replacement squad would go on that next season and win the Super Bowl against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was a tremendous game from both the offense and defense, but you have to give a shout out to our rookie quarterback. Despite the shaky regular season, James Cody would go on a tear in the Super Bowl, just shy of 240 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and another 100 rushing yards. We also saw a fantastic day from third-year player in Christian Harris, who really helped lead the defense, 1 sack, 1 interception, and 5 total tackles. And that is where this story begins. Of course, every time you win a Super Bowl, you have to defend that championship. And that is exactly what this episode, or movie as we're calling it, is all about. And it starts off with us having to replace our offensive coordinator as he took a not so well developed offense and won the Super Bowl. He will move on to bigger and better things. So in his place, we are hiring a new offensive coordinator in Alan Davidson, sticking with a West Coast zone run style. And he will not have as many perks and upgrades as our former OC did. We also, after the Super Bowl, say goodbye to 2 big veterans for us in Julio Jones. He gets his ring, and Jawan James, who came in and really helped solidify that right side of the line. In free agency, we would go on to make some big signings. No one super highly rated, a lot of 80 overalls, as once again, we were allowed to sign as many people as we wanted, up to an 80 overall if they were higher than an 80. It could only be players who did not have contract offers offered to them. So it limited what we could do a little bit, but we were able to fill out the roster. Now in the draft, it was BPA, and we hit big with our first selection in David Watkins, going receiver to replace Julio. We find ourselves a hidden dev receiver with tremendous speed. Has some work to do. That medium route running is not very good to start off with. He has some catching problems, with both of those being a D, but the release B, A deep route running, and A spec catch showed real promise. Now, to help out on the offensive line, as we did have to sign a lot of veterans, we went after a guy in the second round, Alex Mooney. Listed at left guard, though he may kind of shift around depending on what our needs are. And he has a pretty good finesse skill set. And we found ourselves a second hidden dev player coming in with 90 strength. We'll get a boost with our offensive coordinator that is at least one of his boosts. Now, we've struggled a little bit with our starting tight end. Alton Campbell has really not done well his second season. So we wanted to address that, and we did find an athletic tight end in the 4th round in Philip Reed. He has some really good, intriguing ratings. We ended up picking him up. He is not a hidden dev, normal dev with some decent speed and acceleration and good strength as well. He could be a very well balanced tight end for the squad and provide at least a little bit of some competition. From there, it really became a search for guys who can maybe fill out the roster, maybe see if we could find some hidden talent. And Demetrius Adams is a guy who we thought had some hidden talent. He's pretty good from an athletic standpoint, maybe can provide a little bit of some position flexibility, has tremendous press and catch ability, so some turnovers that he could possibly force. And once again, we found ourselves a hidden dev. 3 of 4 players drafted, all hidden dev. Now, he probably has some things to work on, but we're pretty good at the top end of our cornerback depth. So he will have plenty of time to grow and get better. Similarly with the receiving core, we're actually going back for a second receiver in Jerome Miller. He has speed. I mean, athletics from everything but the quickness, that burst off the line, he's great at. Needs to work on that, needs to work on the deep route running, definitely needs to work on the medium. Releases at a decent starting off point, but he's 6'5", 217. Even though he's a normal dev, I think he could definitely be someone who we could try to develop, and we needed some youth at that bottom spot of the depth chart. We had a lot of guys who are getting older into their second contract, so picking up a young guy is fantastic, which we also needed to do at safety. And we found Tavon Ware very similarly to the corner. I think he has some things to work on, but the athletic standpoint is there, exactly what we're looking for. And he has some tackle and block shedding ability that would fit well for us at strong safety. So trying to pick up a young guy to develop, Mr. Irrelevant is Tavon Ware. And this draft class actually ended up being really good for us. We found at least 2 starters and a fair amount of guys who can be contributors. Talking more specifically about Reed, maybe Adams. The bottom 2 will need some time, but for the most part, really happy with this group. And David Watkins, a 75 overall hidden dev, will step right into that starting rotation with 98 speed, 93 acceleration. Needs to work on the hands, the short and medium route running, but starting off with 80 release, 86 spec catch, and a really good run after the catch player and good injury, I think he could be a great player to try to build around. As for the offensive lineman, with the coach's boost, is a 75 as well. Hidden dev. Now, he definitely has some weaknesses to his game. That pass block power is rather low. But at guard, you're going to have some help from either the inside or the outside, so I don't think that'll be too much of a concern. And I think he could step in and start immediately for us, which would definitely help him out in his development. And who knows, maybe he'll be a superstar, maybe have some extra blocking perks. As for the tight end in Philip Reed, definitely not going to be a starter for us with Alton Campbell and as well as Jeremy Ruckert, who those two rivaling for that starting spot. But this is a great depth pick here for us, as he does have some solid talent, both again in blocking and receiving. Needs to work on the route running, but everything else is pretty much there. Now the corner in Adams, the later find hidden dev guy, definitely needs to work on the cover skills, and with that zone being favored, potentially he might be able to make a switch to free safety. He has tremendous catching ability at a 76 with the coach's boost, so he could be a ball hawk safety for us if we choose to develop him that way. As for the late round receiver, has some work to do, and without having that hidden dev may take a little while, but the raw talent is there. I see someone here that is very similar, a little bit faster to that of Justin Ross, and we all know Ross has been pretty good for us. Hopefully Miller would be the same. As for the late round safety in Tavon Ware, only a 62 overall. This is a practice squad pick for sure, but he was Mr. Irrelevant. Needs to work on his coverage ability, but he has the raw run stopping talent that we could try to develop. Now the preseason did not go fantastic for us. We dropped 2 of the 3, but the one we did win against the Colts was a good one, 31-17, though we also lost to the Dolphins 38-17. So mixed results for sure, but the good signs are James Cody here. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had a lot of interceptions last year. Would love to see that improve. 69% completion as well. Not too bad. Only sacked once. Huntley, though, 2 touchdowns, 4 interception, 52%. Not good. At the running back spot, Max Borghi, fantastic preseason. 4.2 yards an average and 2 touchdowns. Turbin, not too good. 2.8, 1 touchdown. Cody did have a rushing touchdown and not much more from there. As for the receivers, pretty good showing from KJ Osborne, though we know what he could do. Jeremy Ruckert, though, just edged out Alton Campbell. 7 catches, 69 yards and a touchdown compared to 7 catches, 68 yards and a touchdown. But we didn't see a whole lot from the rookie. Did have a touchdown. As for the offensive lineman, Lincoln Tomlinson did give up the most amount of sacks with 4, and the rookie gave up 0. So he will definitely be getting the start. Over on defense, Amadi, our slot corner, did lead us in tackles with 21. And we had a new safety in Gilman up there. Same for another corner in Lenore. Not sure why the DBs are leading us in tackles, but we did have quite a lot of tackles for loss as well, and those went to the usual suspects. As for the pass rush, really not much from a lot of our guys. DJ Jones, a new guy, did get 1. Bobby Wags with 1, and McGee with 1, but no one else showed up. And only 1 interception in the preseason does go to CJ Henderson. And Matt Gay in preseason did hit 3 of 4 field goals, 8 of 8 extra points. Would have liked the 4 for 4, but we'll take what we could get. But this is what this squad looks like moving in to the next season. Some spots have developed. We have some hidden devs showing up on offense. Hopefully they can grow. And unfortunately, Max Borghi, though just getting his star dev, did lose it. Over on defense, Henderson is a superstar, so is Shaka Tony, and Bobby Wags a star. So that side getting a little bit more in terms of having some well-developing players. Would love to get that for Christian Harris as well. And in terms of the specialists, not much changing from last year. The only real change is at the rush DTs, being Jones and McNeil. But as we jump into our first game of Season 4, it's against a tough opponent in the Kansas City Chiefs, though we drive down the field in our first possession. James Cody tries to take the read option, however gets stuffed at the 6, and we'll have to end up settling for a field goal from Gay. Hitting his first one will put us up early. But we face a very tough opponent here in the Kansas City Chiefs, but the defense comes ready to play with a quick stop on 3rd and short. And that's pretty much how the rest of this game went until late on in the 4th quarter. 7-6, a very close ball game. Defense just needs to get one more stop here, but Kansas City is rolling. Down to the 1 for 1st and goal. Patrick Mahomes in the pocket, drops back, doesn't like what he sees, scrambles, and Mike Dana gets there just late. And the Kansas City Chiefs take a late game lead. And with just 35 seconds, no timeouts left, we need a touchdown and the 2-point conversion. But the hit coming in on Cody from Chris Jones forces a bad pass, gets intercepted by Ballantyne, and it will be a loss in our first game of the season. So not a great start in terms of trying to defend our championship, and that struggled continued, and people started asking questions about this generational talent that we keep talking about. Is it him or is it the rest of the team? Now we need to see Cody, being a generational talent, lead us, and he hasn't done it. We start the season 0-3 after a 25-22 loss to the Chargers. And in this game, Jacoby Brissett, the Madden legend, just ripped us apart. But Cody, just 184 through the air, 2 touchdowns, was sacked 1 time. No turnovers, though, is great to see. But Austin Eckler, over 5 yards a carry, not helping out. Allen, 2 touchdowns. Clearly didn't look like the DBs were ready in this one. Almost 3 receivers at 100 yards. As for defense, though, Davis Gaither did lead us in tackles with 11, and we did have a few tackles for a loss. 2 for Mike Dana highlights that group. Did have 2 sacks as well. Harris and Tony show up, and Harris also gets the INT, and Matt Gay did miss a field goal that could have leveled this game up if only he hit it true. In the next game, though, a field goal would not have made much of a difference. We lost to the Packers 49-17, giving up 21 in the second and 14 in the fourth. Will Potter, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Meanwhile, Cody, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Borghi, though, did have a solid game, 4.31 touchdown, but we did give up quite a lot of yards in the rushing game as well. Christian Watson, 2 touchdowns, but more importantly, Tyree Thomas, a receiver we thought about taking, but instead went with Watkins. He had 2 touchdowns against us. Meanwhile, the guy we took, just 2 catches, 28 yards. Defensively, again, Davis Gaither led us in tackles with 10. We did have, once again, a few tackles for a loss, this time from McNeil, a sack from Bobby Wags. And Matt Gay this time 100% on both field goals and extra points. But at this point in the season, we need to see something change. And to start off, against the Eagles in week 4, started to see a little bit more of that generational talent as Cody rips off a beautiful scramble for the first down. That would be his only big plays. He does keep converting here for us on 3rd down. With another 3rd and 9 here in plus territory, he drops back, looks to scramble once again, but is just gassed. He's having to carry the team, and he ends up being inches short. So we call the field goal unit out on the field. They send us up 3-0. And it'll stay that way for a while, as Christian Watson with a nice deep pass gets us towards the red zone and we start moving. For the first time, we're going to see us actually take a 2-score lead as we find Alton Campbell in the end zone. But the Eagles will end up finding Devontae Smith as our DBs continue to struggle. This defense in general struggled to play consistent football, and we saw many drives where it was just consistent and then a pop over the top for a touchdown. Puts the Eagles up 13-10 just before halftime. We do drive down the field to try to level this one up. 6 seconds left. We call the timeout, send out the field goal unit. Matt Gay with the boot does make it a tied game as we head into half. But it does not stay that way for long. Eagles do take a lead, but Justin Ross shows up for 43 yards and a touchdown to level the game once again. As we jump forward to the 7th quarter, once again trying to find a leveler here. It's 4th and 10. Cody scrambles and ends up finding Osborne in the end zone. A flag comes in as a late hit on Cody. We decline it, take the lead. But late on, once again, defense cannot come through for us, and the Eagles end up taking yet again another lead. And on another 4th down, just inches needed, we tried to swing it out to Turbin. A great play made by Edwards. Swats the ball away, and we will lose again. 0-4 to start off with, and to make matters worse, just a couple games after, Max Borghi fractured his shoulder blade and will be out for a good chunk of the rest of the season. And this came during some more losses. Minnesota destroyed us once again, 37-10. Defense isn't showing up, offense isn't showing up. Turnovers are for James Cody. 3 interceptions in this one, giving up 4 rushing touchdowns. Borghi was healthy in that one, did at least get a touchdown. And the receiving group, okay, was one of the better games from David Watkins so far. An average game for Osborne in his return to Minnesota. But unfortunately for us, we're really not getting our main guys going, though we did stop Justin Jefferson, which has been rare for this DB group. Christian Harris leads us in tackles in this one with 11, and Shakatoni did have 2 tackles for a loss, and then a pair go to Jones and Dillard, and the interception to Travion Mullen. Matt Gay, though, misses yet again another field goal, but wasn't going to be all too impactful. And this was the game in which Borghi did get injured as we lose to the Broncos in overtime, 22-14. A better day from James Cody, 2 touchdowns, and Tom Brady, no touchdowns throwing. Though you'll see down at the bottom there, Tom Brady did actually rush for a touchdown as well as Javonte Williams, and not a great day from Turbin. Borghi, before getting injured, averaged 3.8. Receiving wise, again, struggling. The top 3 all for Denver. Osborne did get a touchdown, and so did Justin Ross. Watkins, however, 1 catch, 4 yards. Davis Gaither leads us in tackles with 9. We had 4 tackles for a loss, all spread out. And a lot more sacks coming in this one, 2 for Dana and 2 for McGee. But at this point in the season, we are 0-6, searching for an answer as to what has happened to this team. So we decide to go make a change at defensive coordinator because the defense is not getting the job done. So we end up firing Jackson Pierce, and in his stead, we hire Anthony Strickland, a base 4-3 compared to the 3-4 style of our previous coach. He will come in with a majority of the upgrades as well, though we are missing a few. And on top of that, we switch our scheme from a West Coast power run to zone run, and as well as our playbook, Seattle for offense, Dallas for defense. And at this point, prime time, we need to see a change, and it's against one of the best teams in the league right now, the 5-1 Raiders in Week 7. This is really a make or break point in the season. However, offense doesn't move very well, but Bobby Wagner puts us right back out there with a great interception about midfield. And again, just needing to see this offense move. Right now, defense is doing what they can. Alton Campbell gets 28 yards, setting us up close to the end zone. And on 3rd and goal, we're going to see Cody scramble to the top and find the first points of the game with about 2.5 minutes left in the first quarter. However, the defense would not come through for us as McGee does give them the free first down, and from there they were just able to slowly and methodically move the ball down the field, plus a 23-yard gain there from Adams, and he will eventually be the one that ends this drive with an 11-yard touchdown, leveling this game up at the end of the first. As we move on to almost the end of the second quarter, we're trying to get a late touchdown before half, and just a bad choice to throw to Osborne there. We'll end up with no points as we go into half down 10. And as we get late on into the fourth quarter, down multiple possessions, we find Osborne with a heck of a grab in the end zone to at least draw this thing closer. And if our defense can get a stop, we have a game here late. And our defense ends up doing exactly that, getting the stop and allowing our offense one more chance here. But on 4th and 10, we needed the first down, but Moring makes a fantastic play from the safety spot, jumping the route, and seals this game with a pick 6. We end up dropping all 7 games to start the season, and Shane Falco is frustrated, just as the rest of the offense is. And unfortunately, with Borgie's injury, we did end up needing to bring in another running back because Turbin was not getting the job done. So we signed Jalen Warren, a 4th-year running back out of Oklahoma State. And to make room, we did end up releasing Chauncey Abraham. And to make matters even worse for us, Christian Harris ends up partially tearing his PCL. He's going to be out for 6 weeks. So these injuries starting to stack up. Some guys we're trying to develop and build around, they're not out there. But we do end up getting our first win in Week 10, though this one did come at a great cost. As we'll see here, the passing stats, we have 2 quarterback stats showing up with Tyler Huntley playing a fair bit of the game. In this game, James Cody ended up having a knee cartilage tear, putting him out for 3 weeks. Luckily, though, this was going to fall during a bye-week period. And with the new competition at running back, Turbin did have a better game, 4.5 and a touchdown, though Warren did not impress. Cedric Wilson getting a start at receiver, 107 and a touchdown, though McLaurin 2 touchdowns against his old team. And David Watkins still struggling to get going, just 4 catches, 35 yards. Defensively, Amadi, a slot corner, leads us in tackles. We did have a lot of tackles for a loss in this one, so that is good to see. But the things we're not seeing is a lot of sacks. Shaka Toney just 1 in this game, and that's about all he's had so far this season. We did have 3 interceptions, which is great to see, but another missed field goal and also a mixed extra point for Matt Gay. His season has not gone well either. But we end up stacking up almost back-to-back wins. Taking on division rival in the Cowboys, we have our best showing of the year. It did come after a loss, but 31-6 we will take, as Tyler Huntley put together a pretty solid performance against a rival. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. We did get an interception off of Dak, but a great showing here from Warren. 4 yards a carry, not bad. Turbin with a touchdown, and we held Zeke to just 10 rushes for 3 yards per rush, so pretty solid. And David Watkins has his breakout performance, 92 yards, 8 catches, 1 touchdown. We also see Osborne get a touchdown, and we kind of slowed down Schultz, which typically doesn't happen. As for the defense, Amadi in back-to-back weeks leads us in tackles. Strange. A few more tackles for a loss, and 1 sack goes to our DT. Now the guy with the interception, Bobby Wags. And in this game, Matt Gay actually hit all of his kicks, which is a surprise. And we end up actually getting back-to-back wins as we go on to take another rival in the Giants. And while not winning by a lot, we do get back James Cody with 304 yards in his debut, his first game back, 1 touchdown. Huntley is getting involved a little bit, and we pick off Herbert and sack him 3 times. Barkley still had a pretty good game. Warren, okay. And Turbin did end up getting another touchdown. Not running James Cody a lot either, I think, is a big one. Osborne went off in this game, over 100 yards. Cedric Wilson close to 100. And David Watkins ends up with 72 yards and a touchdown. So he's starting to get things going as well. Bobby Wagner, for the first time, leads us in tackles with Harris gone. Only McNeil gets some sacks, Dana and Jones as well. And then the interception goes to CJ Henderson. Matt Gay also hit all of his kicks once again, so he's starting to get things going, and we're starting to get healthy as we're only missing Max Borghi. So Harris is back, Cody's back, just one more game before Borghi returns, and it is a sweep of the Cowboys, 31-28. We put up the same amount of points. Defense doesn't play as well in this one, but we get the win, and that's really what matters. Cody ends up with 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, still seeing a little bit from Huntley, and Prescott picked off 3 times, though we do give up 1 passing touchdown. In the rushing department, a great showing here from Borghi coming back, only 3.3, but he gets a touchdown. Elliott did have a much better game, 2 touchdowns for him and 1 for Pollard. Osborne, 1 touchdown. Schultz with a bounce back game in this one. And David Watkins has been a little bit up and down. Now, Cedric Wilson gets 2 catches, 15 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That is a stat line for you. Over on the defense, Davis Gaither back in the front with 9 tackles. Not as many tackles for a loss in this one, only 2. But the 3 interceptions all go to DBs, including some guys who typically don't get the start in Lenore. And with the tight score line, potentially Matt Gay hit the game-winning field goal. But as we move on to the final week of the season, we have a breakout opportunity for McGee as some of the younger guys are getting the start and a chance for us to knock the Bears out of the playoffs. And we start with a simple slant route here to Manny Fox, who gets the grab, and that tremendous speed that he has takes it all the way to the house. A great way to start the game, and he did take over that Bo Melton role this season. But the problem's been, can this defense get the stops needed? It ends up being a scramble here on 3rd and 11, and we force the slide down from Fields, though they will end up picking up the field goal, so we don't get the complete stop, but we don't give up the touchdown. We still maintain a lead 7-3. However, when we look to build upon our 4-point lead, things do not go very well. We end up throwing an interception to Kyler Gordon, setting the Bears up as a perfect spot to take the lead. And that is exactly what ends up happening. The Bears do march down the field. Curtis Samuel sets him up at the 1, and he finishes it off with a touchdown. And if there is a play that fully encapsulates this season, this is it. Jeremiah Gemmel forces the big hit, fumble. Their offensive lineman scoops it up, and they score. They take a 2-score lead off of what should have been a highlight for us. As we move on to a minute before half, down 10 points, trying to make something happen here before half, an underthrown pass gets picked off by Cole Holcomb, and the Bears will have another opportunity to widen their lead before half. Though this time, defense stands tall and does not allow the touchdown. We end up just giving up the field goal, which does still make things a little bit more interesting. And on the very next play for us, we launch it deep to Cedric Wilson, beating the Bears defense for a 78-yard catch, run, and touchdown, making it a 1-score game before half. And late on in the 3rd quarter, we hand it off to Borghi with some beautiful blocking, and he will end up walking into the end zone untouched, making this a 1-score game. And just as we saw in the regular season finale last year, in this one, Jeremiah Gemmel makes the big play with an interception on 3rd and 5, giving our offense a chance to take a lead. And we will end up doing it on the goal line with a delayed pass that will find the rookie in Miller. But that only puts us 1 point up. We need the 2-point conversion, and we end up going right back to Miller, who will collect all 8 points, putting us up by a field goal with 1 minute, 56 seconds on the clock. But the defense has to get the stop, and McGee, with a chance to seal it, whiffs on the sack. We whiff on the tackle, and Cole Kmet takes this one to the house. Bears back on top. And once again, we have under a minute trying to win this game. We loft it deep, to Manny Fox, who was open, but the pass underthrown. Eddie Jackson makes the play, and the Bears will end up winning Week 18. And on top of that, McGee does not end up getting his development boost, and we finish the year bottom of the NFC East, 4-13, a dramatic change from the last season. We were the second worst offense in terms of yards gained. Passing wise, still one of the worst, bottom 5 for sure. The rushing game was a little bit better for us, but we were still well below average. And in terms of points per game, we scored the least amount, only 20.6 points per game, which we well blew that out of the water last season. Defensively, we weren't the worst in terms of yards given up, but we were definitely the bottom 10. And that kind of went throughout. Passing yards, well below average. Rushing yards, even a little bit more below average. And we gave up the second most amount of points, 491, the only team worse than us, the Pittsburgh Steelers at 507. And we end up being one of the worst teams in terms of sacks, 25 in total. Meanwhile, Shaka Toney had more than that in his entirety the last 2 seasons, but we are at least league average in interceptions, ending the year with 13. James Cody finishes his sophomore season with a little bit over 3,000 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 19 interceptions, completing only 63% of his passes, sacked 27 times. But he also led us in rushing with 411 yards, 2 touchdowns, no fumbles. Max Borghi didn't miss a lot of time, averaged 3.3 yards a carry, 4 touchdowns, 1 fumble, 3.1 for Turbin, 5 touchdowns. Jalen Warren, not good. He's not going to be sticking with this squad moving forward. Our leading receiver is KJ Osborne with 8 touchdowns. Alton Campbell was our number 2 with 775 yards and 5 grabs. And the rookie in Watkins, 739, 4 touchdowns. Not bad for a rookie. We got Cedric Wilson going more late on in the season, and he had a good showing. But that did mean Justin Ross lost out on most of his reps. Turbin didn't really get involved in the passing game, nor really did Manny Fox. As for the offensive line, 10 sacks given up for Leno and a slightly worse season for Murphy, but in total, not too bad. Do need to shout out the rookie, only gave up 2 sacks the entire season. Defensively, Akeem Davis-Gaithers, 123 tackles, leads the team by far. And finally, we had some DTs show up, 18 tackles for a loss for McNeil, 10 for Jones. We had quite a handful for everyone else as well. But the main problem that we're seeing right now is that we're getting tackles for a loss, sure, but we're not getting the sacks. Our leading sack artist was actually our DTs. Jones had 4.5, McNeil with 4, another 4 for Dana and McGee, but Shaka Toney only ends his season with 3 sacks. And as I talked about the last couple seasons, he's been having more than the total we had this year. 27.5 last year, 28 the season before, and in our first season of this series, 19.5. So something has happened with Shaka Toney, and we're going to have to investigate it. As for the rest of the defense, Bobby Wags leads us with 3 interceptions. We did have a handful for some few other guys as well, though not as many for our starting corners. Each of them just had 1, so need to see some improvement there. And it definitely wasn't a good year for Matt Gay, who only hit 15 of his 19 field goals and did end up missing 1 of his extra points. So with how bad this offense was, once again, we end up firing our offensive coordinator, and we also fire our defensive coordinator as we need a fresh start moving on from this really bad season. In their place, we'll end up hiring Nick Gregory, a vertical zone run, as we look to change the offense a little bit more heading into next season. And Tony Walters at defensive coordinator, going to a 3-4. So some big changes coming to this team, and they both come in with a majority of the skill sets unlocked. A few things do still need to be changed, but this is an improvement off our previous coordinators. But the year ends with a 35-21 Super Bowl for the Buffalo Bills, winning their very first Super Bowl. MVP goes to Tremaine Edmonds. You can see the yearly awards off to that right-hand side. We were not in the running for anything, nor did we have a single Pro Bowler. And as we take a look at the lineup screen, James Cody at least still manages to stay an X factor. We find out Watkins is a star dev. But if you look to the offensive line, the right guard is a superstar. So our guards are set for the future. But defensively, we see some regression. Shaka Toney loses his superstar dev trait down to a star, as well as Henderson. The defense struggled to stop about anything. Bobby Wags also loses his, and Christian Harris, no real development this season. So it is safe to say that this team has experienced the Super Bowl hangover.